Hi, Lara here. I've got a little sequence for you. This one will most definitely open the hips, work on the ankles, the wrists, the shoulders, a little bit of core. Remember that if at any point you start to feel your joints, it's a good time to rest. And if you're not sure about whether a posture is appropriate for you at this particular point in time due to injury and so on, please come into class if you take class with me regularly and ask, and I'm happy to give you more info. And if you're seeing this and you don't regularly practice with me, feel free to send me an email or a message online of some sort, and I'm happy to answer any question that I am able to answer. All right, so let's get started. We're gonna start on our backs. And if you know your hamstrings are tighter and such, then you're gonna wanna have a couple of blocks handy. I like these Manduka blocks, they're quite firm. And a strap. Hands come behind thighs, make sure you've got lots of space behind you. Make a C with the spine, come down slow. Once you're all the way there, walk your feet to you. Have the feet at hips distance apart. Draw the right knee towards your navel. Take that right ankle to the left knee, flex your foot, then lengthen the right inner groin to the right inner knee. Try to lengthen the pubic bone away from you. Hip bones equal distance from the floor, equal distance from the shoulders. If you need more, keep lengthening the inner groin. Walk the left foot closer. You can lift your heel, you can lift your foot. Your hands can come behind your thigh, or you can use your strap behind your thigh. You can also place this foot on top of a block. Take your thighs away from you and push your thighs into your hands until the arms straighten. Equally pull the upper arm bones toward their sockets. Try to broaden the collarbones. Inner upper arm to the ceiling, outer upper arm to the floor. You can keep the pelvis neutral. You can continue to draw the legs closer, but keep that front of the thigh to the back of the thigh connection, pushing the thighs away. Maybe you can think about pulling the thigh bones into the hip sockets. Maybe you can think about the outer trochanter, so the butt and thigh area, connecting, which helps to insert those femurs even more so. Three more deep breaths. And releasing the hands, bring the left foot to the floor. Keep the angle of the leg, keep the knee away from you, keep the foot flexed. Take the wrists in line with the shoulders. Slowly bring your right foot towards your left. Your foot can arrive on a block or the floor. Think about lifting the outer left heel if available. You can lift the toes of the right foot if you like, or push them into the floor firmly. Keep lengthening the right knee and thigh away from you. Keep thinking about pulling the outer trochanters towards one another and the femur bones or the thigh bones into the pelvis. The lowest part of the abdomen draws to the lowest part of the back. The ribs draw together and root back. If you needed more here, you could bend the left elbow, lift the left shoulder, left ribs, etc., and slide a little more to your left. Eventually the spine will be slightly more stacked and both shoulders will completely rest. If the shoulders do completely rest, the gaze can turn to the right here. Concentrate on your breathing. Now gaze comes to center. Fire up the legs, bring the legs back to center. Straighten out the spine. Draw the right knee towards the navel. Hands come behind the thigh. Straighten the right leg as much as feels comfortable. If you genuinely need more, you can keep the pubic bone lengthening here. The left leg can straighten. Now we'll point and flex. Circles. For today, we'll just do 3 of each, or approximately 3 of each. Once you've done 3 in each direction, flexing, curling, pointing, and flipping. 2 more. Good. And then flexing to hold. Push the thigh away from you, pull the thigh to you. Think outer right hip away from you. So those hip bones are equal distance from the shoulders respectively. You're trying to pull the left side of the buttocks the left side of the pelvis closer to the floor so that the right side and left side hip bone are equal distance from the ground as well. And then from here, release your hands, push your palms into the ground, slowly lower your leg. Left leg can be bent or straight. And then go ahead and bend both knees, feet to hips, distance apart. Draw the left knee towards your navel, pivot at the hip to take the ankle to the knee, flexing the foot. Take the left knee and thigh away from you, pubic bone away from you, hip bones equal distance from shoulders and floor. Ideally, we have to pull that right femur bone down into the hip socket to try and keep that level. Pelvis. Should you need more, the right foot walks closer, the heel can lift, the foot can lift. You can bind this time behind the right thigh. Strap our hands. Block under the foot is also an option. Push your thighs away from you, push them into the hand. Equally pull your upper arm bones back into the sockets. Trying to control the humeral bones and the femur bones. Fingertips pressing into the backs of the hands, fingers squeezing together. You need more still. You can keep the pelvis, you can draw the legs closer, but still rooting them away from you. Lengthening that left inner groin to the left inner knee. Maybe you can even think outer left knee into outer left hip. Maybe you can think outer trochanters connecting. You can even start to draw the left sit bone towards the right slightly. Okay, now releasing the hands, right foot to the floor, extending the arms, wrists in line with shoulders. We don't want the wrists higher than the shoulders here. They could be slightly lower if needed. Keep the action of the legs. Slowly take the left foot towards your right this time, allowing the left hip to lift slightly. Again, this can be sufficient. Perhaps you lift the outer right heel, or you need more. Maybe your shoulder is lifting. You can bend your right elbow, lift the right shoulder, right side of the ribs, slide a little more to the right with the entire upper body, and then once again, extending those arms. Think about pressing into the elbows and lengthening away from you. It's okay if the back of the hand lifts. More important to connect the shoulder and the elbow to the floor. Eventually all will come. If you brought the shoulders to the floor comfortably, then the gaze can turn. Otherwise, keep the gaze at the ceiling. There should not be any tension in your neck. Keep lengthening the inner groins. Think about pulling those femur bones into their respective sockets. Toes of the left foot can lift or push down. Both are very valuable options. Lowest part of abdomen to lowest part of back. Just below your navel, drawing in and slightly up. Just 2 more deep breaths. And then the gaze comes to center, the legs come to center. Straightening the spine in line with the pelvis. Draw the knee towards your navel, take your hands behind your thigh, push your thigh into your hands, slowly straighten the left leg as much as feels comfortable. Pull that right femur bone into the hip socket. If you did on the other side, the right leg will straighten, so both legs are straight. Take the left hip bone away from you and start to point and flex the left ankle. Again, we'll go for about 3 repetitions for each exercise. And then pointing for circles. Think about taking the outer left hip away from you. And it's tricky to find that outer left hip connection. Bend your knees a little. Focus on this area of the hip. Think about taking this part of the hip away from you, just like this. Makes all the difference. And if you bend both knees a little, it can be easier to find those connections, taking the left femur away from you, the right femur towards you. And eventually the flexing, curling, pointing, and flipping. Once you've done 3 of those, holding the foot flat, see if you can release your hands and lower the leg slowly. Good. Bend the knees, roll to the side, push yourself up. Come to extend the legs, take the hands beside you. Gaze to the feet, slide the hands back. Fingers together if you can. If you need to spread your fingers, you could. We don't want the elbows apart. We don't want them all the way together. We want them just as wide as the shoulders. Drop the ribs in the abdomen, lift the chest. Point your toes, gaze to your big toes, lift your right leg as high as you can, point your toes, lift the kneecap, lower, And other side. No momentum, please. Slow as you can up, slow as you can down. Try to keep that quadricep engaged. Try to lift the kneecap. One more with each leg. And then see if you can lift both legs and hold for just 5 breaths. And I promise, the more often you do it, the easier it gets. Try to lift those kneecaps, squeeze the toes, zip those legs together, lift the chest, push into the palms, particularly the base of the index finger and thumb, that helps a lot. And then squeeze the legs, lower as slow as you can. Once the legs are completely on the ground, straighten the elbows, relax the legs. Good. And then from here, we want to have our fingers spread wide, our index fingers pointing directly forward and our toes tucked under. And this portion is particularly good if you're suffering from any carpal tunnel symptoms or any arthritic symptoms in the hands and wrists. You want your hands a bit ahead of the shoulders here. The toes are quite well tucked so that we can bring our hips nice and close to our heels. And you can even have your hands slightly wider than your shoulders or point the index fingers out to the corners of the mat. This will reduce sensation significantly. Now see if you can drag the fingertips towards you and away from you, trying to bend the knuckles slightly. Good. And I know it's tricky to see, so think about it like this. Just the knuckles are bending here. Right? So everything else stays the same. The base of the palm here, it doesn't move. So this part of the palm isn't lifting. And what tends to happen here is this part of your palm lifts a lot. So we want to try to keep it as still as we can. And should you feel like, well, this is feeling really great, I'm finding the base of my palm, it's not lifting, it feels great, I want more, keep the external rotation of the upper arm, keep the internal rotation of the lower arm, maybe bring yourself a little more forward. Wrists are still slightly ahead of shoulders, but not a lot. Maybe you can keep the lift of the knuckle. Maybe it feels good. If it feels like enough, you back off at any time. If you want more, you can start to make some gentle circles. Change direction. And you can always pause at any point. It may or may not feel good to add the lifting of the fingers. If not, you simply let the fingers be as they usually would, not lifting the knuckles at all. And remember, being back here is just as valid at any point, or doing circles with a flat finger. All right, stopping with the circles, bring the hips towards the heels again. Flatten the fingers. See if you can lift all the fingers and lower all the fingers. And this time, looks a bit like this. I'll come closer so you can see. So ideally, right in here, stays connected. See? So instead of it being apart, you've got it completely connected. Right? And this helps to make the base of that palm very strong. Eventually, you get a real arch in the palm. All right, now try to keep all the fingers up and see if you can tap just the little fingers. Try to tap them up and down. And if you were to get too much sensation, this would be a great time to use your blocks as well. Keep that in mind. You could have the palms resting on the blocks, do the same action here. It'll be less pressure on the wrist. So keep that in mind. All right, ring fingers. Try to move just the ring fingers. Lift them and lower them. And middle fingers, just the middle fingers. Very good. And you might not get a lot of movement initially, and that's very normal. You just do as much as you can without any pain. And pointers, just the pointers. And thumbs. And the thumb can be tricky. Make sure you keep the base of the index finger down right here. Try not to let it lift. It's crucial to keeping the strength. And you can, we're not gonna do it today, but you can do the same action with all the fingers down and then trying to lift just the pinky, just the ring finger, just the middle, just the pointer, just the thumb. All of these are good actions too. They're really valuable. All right, make sure you got lots of space. Toes are still tucked. You're extending your spine now. You can either hang out in a puppy dog pose here. If it's too intense, you can stack your palms or your fists underneath your forehead or place a block under your forehead. If you need more, then you'll lift your knees and you'll come into a dog. Keep a slight bend in your knee so you can lengthen your spine. And then if you can straighten the knee without losing the spine and the shoulders, then feel free to do so. Let your head hang or bring your chin toward your chest. Three more breaths. Try to lift the kneecaps if you're straightening the legs. And then as you come out of the posture, try to keep the length of the spine and lower the knees very slowly. Trying to lift those forearms as you come down. Good, and then once you come out, I'm gonna take our blocks to the front of the mat at either the medium height or the high height. I'll demonstrate the high height. So you want your blocks to be about as wide as your shoulders so you can see that the knees are just right in between, the toes are tucked under, and you can squeeze your fingers around those blocks to make it easier on the wrist. Step the right foot forward between the blocks. You want your feet as wide as your hips for this one, it'll be easier. Walk the left knee back. And if your balance is feeling great, you could start with them together, that would be fine. Here, we don't want the knee to go past the ankle. So we don't want the knee ahead of the ankle, we don't want the knee behind the ankle. From there, lift your left thigh, straighten the knee. Make sure you don't hyperextend your elbows. Think external rotation of upper arm, but equally there's an internal rotation of the lower arm. So you see how that elbow is engaged. It's not just hanging out and you're not putting pressure on the joint itself, but you're really strongly engaging it. Base of the palm is firmly rooting. You're not letting it lift. You're not letting the thigh drop, but you're lifting that left inner thigh up. Let's see if we can take 10 more breaths, and I'll show you a side view as well. So here what we're looking for is to lift the chest. Try not to let the hips sag, but lift the hips higher. We're trying to take the right hip back and the left hip forward. Trying to find those shoulders and elbows. Chest lifting, belly lifting. And if you need more for those last few breaths, you can bring your fingers up to your thigh or take your arms right outside your ears and think about lifting the abdomen. Think outer right knee into outer right hip, and then slowly sweep those hands down, lower your knee, point your foot, chest lifting, belly lifting. You can stay here. If you need more, you can take your hands to your right thigh, thinking left hip back, right hip forward, or pardon me, right hip back, left hip forward. You can even bring your hands to your pelvis if you like and try to squeeze those elbows together. Pushing into the top of the back foot, you can either push into the ankle flat or you can try to lift the ankle. Both are helpful. Flat ankle is more traditional, lifted ankle provides a little bit less pressure on the knee, which is nice. And remember, you can return to here at any point. You do not have to bear weight, more weight. And should you feel the knee at all, you can put a cushion under the knee or an extra mat or a folded up sweater. Even a little bit of a towel folded under would work well. Five more breaths. Try to push into this right heel just as much as the toes. Good, and then bring those hands down. Tuck your back toes under. Bring your hips towards your heels slowly and bring your blocks back with you. So you can stay here. You can flip the blocks a little lower if you like. You want to make sure you're bending your knee just a little. And you're definitely tucked under with the toes here. Chest lifts, belly lifts. You can stay here, or if balance is feeling great, you can touch your hands. Now it's really important here that you keep your gaze fixed, because you notice as soon as I went to look and speak to the camera here, I lost my balance. If the gaze is fixed, it's much, much easier. When you tilt the gaze or move the head away from in line with the spine, it's that much more difficult. Let's take 3 more breaths, and that's why a drishti point or a fixed point of gaze is so valuable. If you are using the hands, engage those elbows. All right, slowly, slowly work your way forward. Take your time, use the blocks for support. Once you're all the way forward, beyond whatever height of block you started on, lift that back knee, open up the knee, and then bring the foot down, point the foot, push into the foot, lift the chest one more time. Good. And then toes tuck, step the foot back, place your blocks beside you, and then straighten the knees, come into a plank, push yourself into a dog. Lengthen the spine, relax the neck. External rotation of upper arm, internal rotation of lower arm. And if it's hard to find the shoulders, walk the feet in a little closer like this. Bend your knees a little. Find the rotation, lengthen the spine. And then once you found it, then you can start to straighten. But even then, you want to keep engaged every little bit of the body, as much as is available to you. Remember, you can always take a child's pose, pointing the toes, pushing into the tops of the feet. Arms can extend or rest under the head. All right, when you're ready, coming forward. So we'll start forward again, so you can see the same postures from a different angle. So from here, feet and knees at hips distance. And you can always start together and take them a bit apart, but it's much easier if you just start apart. Left foot forward, walk the right knee back so that your shin is straight. You want the knee not ahead of the ankle or behind the ankle, but directly stacking. And then lift the right knee when you're ready. Think about dropping the hips, taking the left hip back, the right hip forward. Elbows don't hyperextend, but you engage those elbows. External rotation of upper arm, internal rotation of lower arm. Think about lifting that right inner thigh, but not the hips like this. Try to drop those hips. It's as though you're pulling the femur bones into the hip sockets. Concentrate on your breathing. And if you can, bring your hands up to your thigh or extend the arms outside the ears. Concentrate on full, even breaths. Then slowly scoot the hands down to your blocks. Lower your knee. Make sure that your shin remains straight. Point your foot. And you can hang out here, which is fantastic. Or if you need more, you can bring your hands to your thigh or even bring your hands to your hips. Both are nice. Hands on hips is a little more difficult balance-wise, and it tends to give you more shoulder opening as well, which is nice. Concentrating on the breath, pushing into the top of the right foot. You can drag the heel away from you to lift the ankle a little, or you can push the top of the ankle down completely. Both are nice. I would do both at different times. It's always good to work the same thing in a different way. Elbows squeezing, spine lengthening. 3 more breaths. All right, and then hands come back to your blocks. Tuck your back toes under, get a good grip, and then start to lift the sole of the left foot. And you can pause at any time. This might be sufficient. You can stay right here, finding those palms and the spine. If you need more, focus on keeping the knee, foot, and hip in line, and start to walk your blocks a little further back, straightening the knee as you see fit. The heel might drag closer a little bit, and eventually your weight will start to come onto that right heel. Now it's up to you whether that feels good or it feels like too much. You might feel like it's really comfortable. You might feel like it is, it might feel like the kind of sensation like my toe's gonna break. If that's the type of thing you're feeling, then it means that you need less. So you need to be honest with your feet and your body and your ego and back off a little to a point that feels good. If it feels really nice, you can choose to lower a little bit, lengthen, be lighter on the block, maybe even get rid of the block. But the thing is, it's a very incremental practice. You don't want to rush from one stage to the next. A little bit at a time is more than enough. Pardon me, 3 more deep breaths. And then bring your hands back to the blocks on the height you started at. Push into your right toes and slowly come forward. Good. And then I like to push into my toes, open up the back of the leg, and then place the knee, push into the top of the foot, lengthen the spine, just to bring that ankle back to neutral. Toes tuck once again. Step your left foot back. This time, place your blocks in front of you, either like so, or if you're narrower than I am, shoulder-wise, you'd go like so. If you were quite a broad man, you could go wider like so. All of these would be appropriate. Come to the elbow, measure the elbow so the elbow is right under the shoulders. Squeeze the blocks with the palms. Make sure your knees, if you're feeling quite warm, they can be together. Otherwise, knees and ankles at hips distance. Toes tucked, get a good grip. Look at your blocks. Lift your knees. And you can stay or you can walk the feet forward. Try to look at the block unless it causes you pain in the neck. Then you can hang your head. Think about lifting the sit bones, lifting the kneecaps, squeezing with the base of the palm. If it's too intense, you simply have your knees on the floor, and you can slide a bit forward and back as an alternative. All right, 5 more breaths. If you want a little bit more, it's nice to bend the knees and straighten the knees. Good, and then lower the knees as slowly as you possibly can. Once you've completely lowered, placing your blocks beside you. Now we'll come forward into pigeon. Hands as wide as shoulders. Let's slide back a little bit here. Knees and ankles as wide as hips yet again, unless you're very familiar with the posture. Right knee comes forward to right wrist. Foot points back. You want your foot pointed here. It's much, much milder on the knee, and you want a 45-degree angle with the knee, or maybe even less if your knee is cranky. Walk the left knee back slowly, slowly. And remember the very first posture we began with on our back, that would be a good alternative to this one, should you feel your knee joint at all, or perhaps your SI joint. Again, you don't want to mess with your body. You want to be kind to it. Push into the feet very firmly. You can point the left foot once you've arrived as far as feels good, and then you can come onto those elbows should it feel comfortable for you. You can choose to stay here. You can stack the fists or palms underneath the head. A nice alternative as well if you wanted more shoulders would be to place one of your blocks underneath the forehead at the low height. Go ahead and extend the arms. Or if it was comfortable to rest the head on the floor itself, same action, same idea. So things that we want to think about in pigeon. We're drawing the right hip bone back, the left hip bone forward. We're lengthening the abdomen, we're lengthening the ribs. Most importantly though, we're using our feet. If you're using your feet, chances are good every other bit of musculature involved in supporting your knee and your lower back, they'll get a little bit more involved as well. The feet are the foundation, if you will. Just like a house, if you've got a terrible foundation, how on earth is the house going to stand up to like an earthquake or something, right? Same concept with your feet in asana practice or yoga practice. If your feet are firing, they're working, chances are really good your house, your practice will be pretty stable and strong. Even if you're super hypermobile like me, it gets better. Let's take 5 more breaths here. Remember, you can fold forward as much as you like or do less. And I'll just give you a side view of this one before we come out. So entering from the side, the right knee would draw toward the navel, the foot would be pointed. You would walk the left knee back slowly until you had sufficient space to point. And then you would lower to the elbow where we were initially, or perhaps lower onto the head, or extend the arms. All right, so when you're ready to come out, your hands are going to be right under your shoulders. right? Or a little bit ahead of the shoulders even, that's fine. Little bend in those elbows. You're gonna tuck your back toes under, push into the top of the right foot. This is important. You don't want this knee to be sacrificed as you transition. You're gonna walk the left knee forward. When you've got enough space, you'll take the right shin and foot back. You'll open up the back of the leg and the knee. And if you wanted to take a dog here, you could. No problem. And then when you're ready, we'll do the second side. The left knee will draw toward the left wrist. You'll walk the left foot in front of the right thigh or keep it pointing back. Remember, that's an option if your knees are sensitive. Or you can repeat the very first posture of the video. Pushing into the top of the foot, walk the right knee back. When you can no longer go back, point your foot. And again, you can find that lift in the ankle that I spoke about earlier, keeping those elbows engaged. If you're bendy like me, you might have a habit of hyperextending, so you want to keep a slight bend. It'll really help you. Or you can straighten the ankle. Both are nice. They're both valuable for different reasons. You can come to your elbows. You can stay on the palms. You can stack the palms under the head. You can stack the fists. You can place a block under your head. All of these options are really nice. Either way, you're drawing the left hip bone back, the right hip bone forward. Same concept with the femur bones or the thigh bones. This eventually keeps the hip bones equal distance from the floor and equal distance from the armpits, which is good for the health of the SI joints. And if you're mobile at all like me, or perhaps the opposite, quite stiff, then these movements are particularly important. We want to try to create a balance, stability and mobility, strength and flexibility, not more of one than the other. 3 more breaths. And when you're ready to come all the way out, hands are under shoulders or slightly ahead of shoulders, elbows engaged, toes are tucked under with that right foot, and then you'll walk the right knee forward. When you have enough space, you'll take the left foot back, you'll open up the back of the knee. Again, if you'd like to take a dog, you could. The hips would come to the heels, you'd push into the feet and come up. A bend in the knee is nice to find length in the spine, injection of the shoulders. 5 more breaths. When you come out, lower the knees slowly. Very good. All right, time for Shavasana. So for Shavasana, it's crucial that you don't skip it. I really don't recommend skipping it. At least 5 minutes. Make a C with your spine. Come down slowly. Once you're all the way there, extend the legs. Start with the legs together unless there's pain, then separate them. Lift the chest. Extend the arms right in line with the waist. Wrist should be somewhat in line with belly button. Palms face up. Close the eyes. Relax everything. Resist the urge to fidget and adjust. Concentrate on your breathing, your body from the inside. Concentrate on being still. we're breathing, waking the body from the inside, blinking the eyes, clenching and relaxing the palms, bending the knees, reaching the right arm overhead to roll to your right, push yourself up, and then come into a comfortable seated position. Let's end with a group om. Well, me oming to my dog, but you know what I mean. It's good for you, I promise. Deep breath in. Thank you for sharing your practice with me and Daisy.